the historical context, Ukraine as a geopolitical crossroad. Now, Ukraine sits at the heart of East Europe, bordering both Russia and the European Union. Its geopolitical position makes it a buffer state and a bridge between East and West. For centuries, Ukraine has been contested territory, part of the Russian Empire, the Soviet Union, and later an independent state after 1991, which was after their independence. For Russia, Ukraine is a central to Russian history, identity, and security. Kiev is considered the cradle of Russian civilization, and Ukraine's separation in 1991 was viewed by many in Moscow as a geopolitical and emotional loss. Now, for the EU and the United States, their interest in Ukraine. First of all, Ukraine represents the possibility of expanding Western democracy, economy, and security institutions eastward and curbing Russian influence. Now, what does this mean? The tension makes Ukraine the focal point of one of the most consequential geopolitical rivalries of the 21st century. Now, the Russian perspective and security and the sphere of influence. Russia views Ukraine as part of its near abroad, a zone where it claims special influence. Now, what about the security aspect of Ukraine to Russia? NATO potential eastward expansion into Ukraine is seen as a direct threat to Russian national security. Ukraine's long border with Russia means NATO membership would put Western military infrastructure right at the Russian doorstep. Now, the European Union perspective, integration, and their quest for stability. The EU sees Ukraine through the lens of neighborhood policy, economic integration, and regional stability. Nothing more than that. Ukraine is a large market, an agricultural powerhouse, and potential trade partner. So the EU Association Agreement that was signed in 2014 sought to integrate Ukraine into the European economy. Now, let's talk about energy security. Ukraine pipelines carries Russian gas to Europe. So what that means is that stability in Ukraine means stability for Euro energy supplies. Now, the United States. What is the United States perspective? Their geostrategy and containment of Russia. Now, the US sees Ukraine mainly through the prism of geopolitics, NATO strategy, and maintaining the liberal world order, preventing Russia from reasserting control over Eastern Europe, weakening Russia's ability to challenge US global influence, supporting NATO. US leaders argue that a strong Ukraine aligned with the West strengthens NATO's eastward flank. Now, the US believe that defending Ukraine means defending the liberal values. Ukraine's democratic aspiration fits with US rhetoric about promoting democracy and countering authoritarianism. Now, what about the global signaling? Why all of this? The US supporting Ukraine also shows the allies in Asia, for example, Taiwan, South Korea, Japan, that US will stand by partners against larger authoritarian powers. Remember, Taiwan is on the brink of invasion by China, and also South Korea is living on the edge with their very powerful and nuclear-armed North Korea sitting at their border that can invade at any time. Now, the power play tactics used by the United States. Now, the US and their European allies has put in billions in military aid, training and intelligence support. Then sanctions targeting Russia's economy, the elite, and defense industry. Diplomatic leadership in rallying NATO and global coalition. Provision of advanced weapon system, e.g. the HIMARS, Patriot, F-16s, and etc. Okay, now let's talk about the power triangle in practice that is being played here, so that you will understand that Ukraine is like a football these Western powers are using to gamble. Now, the power triangle. Ukraine is caught in a three-way tug of war. Russia wants to pull Ukraine back into its orbit through force and coercion. The EU seeks to draw Ukraine closer through economic and institutional integration, while the US views Ukraine as a front line in its broader confrontation with Russia. This triangular struggle escalated dramatically in 2014, which was during the Crimea annexation, the Donbass War, and reached a breaking point with Russia's full invasion in 2022. Now, the outcome and implication of all of this. For Russia, the invasion has undermined its economy, military credibility, and global image, but it still controls part of Ukraine territory, of course. Now, the EU. The war has accelerated EU enlargement debates and pushed Europe toward greater energy independence from Russia. Now, for the US, Ukraine has become a proving ground for US alliances, but also a financial and political burden to the United States. For Ukraine, the struggle has deepened its national identity, accelerated its westward orientation, but at enormous human and material cost, because over 5,000 people are being slaughtered in Ukraine almost every 72 hours. Now, in summary, Ukraine is not just a country at war. It is the epicenter of a geopolitical clash where Russia seeks to reclaim influence, the EU pushes integration, and the US enforces containment. The outcome will reshape the European security order for decades. Fast forward to August 15, 2025. Vladimir Putin, Trump, in Alaska, discussions were made, arrangements were made, but there was no agreement reached. No much information that was put out. But according to Trump, he said Russia is ready for peace agreement. Then there comes the vampires. I call them the vampires because they should have never allowed this to happen. But of course, you wouldn't blame them. They are all liberals. All they want to do is get into war. That is where Trump comes in, a man of peace. And I think that if this is done, if this peace is achieved, President Trump should be awarded, should be given the Nobel Peace Prize because he deserves it. Now, let's get into the circles of these vultures, these vampires. Now, they all meet in White House to discuss the outcome of Putin and President Trump's meeting. Now, the outcome, of course, is I believe that Putin has drafted an agreement of what they want. They have made their demands. Now it is left for Europe to agree to these terms. And of course, who owes the key to that agreement is President Zelensky. If he agrees to Putin's demands, then everything can go as planned. Then peace will be achieved. Stay tuned. I will give you the next update as it comes. Thank you for watching. This is Kus Narrative. Please do subscribe to my channel and hit that notification button so that you will be the first person to be notified whenever I upload a video. Thank you and God bless.